When you're applying for jobs and are trying to convince potential employers to offer you those jobs, typically you will provide them with a resume. In the United States, a resume is often a one-page summary of your recent educational and relevant work experiences, accompanied by a brief list of your skills. Typically, your resume will include a second page with a list of your references, but this will only be given at the request of the employer. Remember, resume building can often take multiple drafts and adjustments over a period of time. It's okay if your first resume is not perfect. Today, we'll be going over the steps for building a basic resume. Now, it's important to remember that a potential employer only spends about 6 seconds looking at your resume. So it is vital that the information you are giving them can be gotten with relative ease. Don't downplay your skills, but also don't list so many of them that your potential employer doesn't even read your resume. So first things first, let's pull up our Word document. The standard format of a resume is something like this. In the header, you will have the contact information, followed by a statement of purpose, your employment history, your education history, and then any additional activities and volunteer services that you're part of. At the top of your document, in larger or more prominent font, we'll write in Maria's information. Below her name, we'll write in her contact information. First, we'll start with her email address. And below that, we'll put in her phone number, 303. The current fashion in resume building is to include only an email address and phone number, since more and more job applicants are concerned with being discriminated against or with having their privacy invaded. For these reasons, you will never include a photograph of yourself with your resume unless the application specifically requests one. Now that we have Maria's contact information included in her resume, let's move on to the next step. Maria would like to go to work for an elementary school as a classroom assistant, so her purpose for applying must be short and related to what she hopes to gain. It may look something like this. This statement shows Maria is familiar with the school she is applying to work at, is goal-oriented, ambitious, and cares for her community, while also being straightforward and clear. These are two things which are most important when writing your own purpose statement. You want to be sure that the employer understands what it is that you hope to gain by employment there, but that you also understand what it is that their organization is about. Now, our next section has to do with employment history. Here is where you will list your previous jobs, as well as what your job titles were, and what activities you were responsible for. You must always list your most recent employment first. For Maria, her most recent employment was at Tiny Tots Daycare as an activity organizer. So we will write that here. Maria was an activity organizer at Tiny Tots Daycare from May of 2011 through to current. To showcase that she is still currently employed there, this is how you would usually write in your employment history. Below this, we'll give a brief summary of her key responsibilities. At Tiny Tots, Maria is responsible for organizing and administering playtime activities, as well as nap time and recess. She is also responsible for building and maintaining relationships with both the children, parents, as well as staff. Now, after this, you would fill in any additional work experience that you might have. For Maria, she also worked at 123 Alphabet Childcare. And there, she was a child care assistant. And her dates of employment there were roughly January of 2005 through to April of 2011. And here, her key responsibilities were assisting caregivers with daily tasks, which included snack prep, activity prep, and organizing any field trip or permission paperwork. She was also responsible for building and maintaining relationships with the children, parents, and staff. After this, we'll move on to her education. Now, in this next step, listing any educational history you have or degrees and certifications that you possess in the United States, it's important to recall that some job positions will require you to meet minimum education qualifications. So in this section, you must be sure that it is written clearly so that a potential employer may see if you meet those minimum requirements. You should always list your most recent qualifications first. Now, Maria graduated with a bachelor's degree in humanities, and she graduated from the Sunrise College of Taos, New Mexico. And her course of study was early childhood education. Below this, you may want to also include any other additional schools that you have attended, as well as any other additional certifications or qualifications that you may possess. Now that we've got all of this information written down for Maria, we can move on to any additional experience she might possess. Here is where you would write about volunteer work you participate in, any organizations you may be a member of, or charities that you give to. For Maria, she is a volunteer at the Front Range Soup Kitchen. She is a youth leader for her annual religious retreat and has been for the past decade. She is also a regular community volunteer participating in such activities as the Habitat for Humanity Build Project. She is a regular organizer for the annual river cleanup. as well as a reading tutor for her local elementary school. Below this, you can mention that your references will be provided upon request, and you would usually see that thus. Now, your references are where you will provide additional contact information for people you have worked with in the past, as well as your relationships with them. References can include both professional references as well as personal ones. And in this case, you'll format it similar to how you have your resume. You will provide the person's name, their email address, as well as a contact phone number, along with how you know them and how long you have known them. Now that we have gone over how to build a basic resume, you can go on and attempt to build your own.